right, it's 5:30. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we'll go ahead and get started. If our stakeholders could, if you can, show us your smiling faces so we can begin. Yeah. Miss Judy, Mr. Michael.
Miss Judy is driving, so she will not be showing her face until she's parked.
Okay, you be safe. So we'll go ahead and get started. So tonight's conversation is really about us talking less and listening more to you all and responding to your individual questions. So we won't have a presentation or anything like that, but I'll just open it up to say, my name is Alicia Osborne. I'm the project manager for the comp plan, and also with the city's division of long range planning. We also have some other staff members that are on the call as well, that will be listening, taking notes, and digesting what we talk about, the discussion we have. Kathy, if you want to come off mute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kathy Cornett. I'm the Community Planning Program Manager, and that program area is in the Long Range Planning Division, which is where Alicia is the manager of. And I'm the Deputy Project Manager of the Comprehensive Plan. And again, as Alicia said, we're really here to listen to you this evening and really interested in hearing your thoughts.
Oh, we have a new someone else that just joined. We were just introducing ourselves, so welcome. If you can, come off camera if you're not driving like Miss Judy. It's safe for you to come off, that's fine. Hey, how you doing? We're good. Good, thanks for coming. So we have Catherine Mahoney on our team, Scott Carell, Aaron Brooks, and Zania Duane, that'll be listening, taking notes, and making sure Kathy and I don't miss anything. So if you, our guests, want to introduce themselves, you can. Let's start with Mr. Michael.
Michael Tarwater, my wife Ann's here with me.
Hello.
What would you like?
Hey. Which neighborhood or area you representing?
40-year resident of Charlotte and live in Myers Park.
Right. We talked to, Kathy and I talked to Charlie and Suzanne and some others this morning. So thanks for coming. Seversville Community Organization.
Yes, my name's Amar Johnson. I'm the president of the Seversville Community Organization. So I didn't mean to use my organization account, but it's on my phone. So
it's hard to switch.
I guess I was
okay.
talking. Yeah.
It's all right. Thanks for coming. And congratulations on your new post. That's pretty recent, right? Within the last 2 years. Yeah.
Last year, yeah, correct. Yes.
Yeah. And Miss Judy's driving, so we'll when she's safe, she can tell us a little bit about herself and her neighborhood. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the purpose of tonight is to, like we mentioned, just to listen to you all. The comprehensive plan process is started in 2018, really in response to the growth and development that our city is experiencing, and then understanding that there's policies in how we grow is not quite clear, the direction the city wants to go in. And so we started with the community engagement process, really just asking the question, how do you want Charlotte to grow? And we worked on that part of the process up until now, just really listening. We released a document to kind of capture the vision, the guiding principles, the goals of what the community has shared that they want to see, and also understanding that we will continue to have those conversations. So The plan today, as it stands, is a policy document. So it doesn't change any zoning. It doesn't do any of that or provide any restrictions. It's a document that shares how the vision for how we want to grow and develop in the future. And so that document came out in October. And then we're now in the third month of a review process where we're listening and capturing those comments to share with our elected and appointed officials who will make a decision in April. So a couple of key dates in between that, there's a public hearing. You guys may have participated in one before on March 22nd, leading up to that adoption date in April. 6 months has been is a long time for a policy document for the city, and understanding that one, we were in COVID, didn't plan for it, but definitely glad we did. We're in COVID and we needed that extra time to have conversations. And then two, because the document is so overarching that we knew that it makes sense to have more time to have discussions and conversations once the document came out. So with that, I'll be quiet and listen, and then we'll just have a dialogue responding to your questions and concerns. Oh, you're on mute. Let me see if you. You're off.
Hello.
I can hear you now.
Sorry. We really just received this document. Maybe 3 weeks ago. And if it's been out since October, then, and you're going to vote on this in April. I mean, it's a lot of information and a lot of change to really vet and go through and understand the ramifications in just a 2-month period. A lot of people, as you can well imagine, are very upset about this. There's a lot of buzz out there that only the developers would really end up benefiting from this. And people who have orderly neighborhoods, who have, joined in to seek an integrity of a neighborhood, will suddenly be sort of, you've got these inserts possibly of not just condominiums, but rental units, from what I understand. Is that right?
No, that's not true, Miss Ann, but go ahead, continue. I'm listening.
Well, I mean, that's in the document, that there would be rental units as well.
Mm-mm.
And so I don't know how this is overall, with the restrictions being lifted, how this overall would solve the problem, because in my mind, here we are in Myers Park. And if a house was taken down on a corner across the street from us, then somebody would come in and build probably $2 million condominiums, at worst, right? So how would that, that's a small example, but how does that solve the affordable housing issue? Secondly, when I look at sort of the character of our city planner, he doesn't even live in Charlotte, from what I understand. He lives in a gated community and has been very unkind on Twitter, and is proposing all of these things. He's from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Is that correct?
He's lived in a couple of places, but go ahead, I'm listening.
Well, I mean, I don't think he understands, what we have built here. We've been here, since 1975 and seen the city grow. And we understand that we want to accommodate housing needs. I mean, there's no question. but we want to keep the integrity of the neighborhoods that we have.
Okay.
And it's concerning to people that, number one, the short time to be able to vet this. Number two, the sort of profile of our city planner. Number three, I mean, when you look at other cities like Houston who have allowed this sort of framework, it's just, I mean, it's laughable.
And it hasn't solved their problem.
And it hasn't solved their problem. And so I'm not suggesting that we table everything. I think we just need more time. I think we need more time, and maybe to get in a more sophisticated city planner that can really look at Charlotte and incorporate the integrity of neighborhoods, how to accommodate affordable housing, how to go forward with a degree of what is appropriate for this city. I mean, Charlotte has a reputation for being, a destination. I mean, people are moving here, and I guess that's why we're talking about this. But we don't want to suddenly patch it together without, maintaining the beauty, integrity, and accommodating, all walks of life to be able to be in this community. So, there's a lot of apprehension, there's a lot of concern. And I think that the buzz out there is that, postponing the vote would be a really good idea until we can all get into the weeds of this and agree as a community, overall, because you don't want leaders sort of pushing things on people and ending up with a very frustrated community. I mean, that's not what admirable leaders do. And so, you want to get consensus, you want to build consensus, you want to look at all the angles. And, that's where, we're landing at this point.
And if I could just add just a couple of comments. First of all, I think the goals behind this plan are laudable. I don't think anybody disagrees with what we're trying to do. I do think it's indicative that this plan's not really, it's not really been well circulated. I mean, just look at the number of people on this Zoom call. I just don't think the word's out there yet as to what's going on and what's being planned. And for that reason, I think delaying the vote and making sure that the misunderstandings about the plan, and we may misunderstand it, but the misunderstandings of the plan can be explained to people so that the whole community can kind of get behind what it is we're trying to do. I think the goals are great. But when you read down through policy 2.1, I think it is 2.2, but part of it may be a vocabulary issue, because I spent my career in the medical field. So to me, an artery is anything that's not a capillary. So just about every street that's not a dead end would be an artery. Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about things like Independence Boulevard and Wilkinson and the big 4-lane passages through the city? And I think taking the time to make sure that the citizens of Charlotte understand not only what we're trying to do, but how we're doing it. Not everybody's going to agree at the end of the day. That would be nice, but I think the more people that get a chance to hear about it and talk about it and understand it the way y'all understand it, probably because you've been living with it for 6 months. The better from the elected officials right on down through, through the general populace. Yeah, and I agree with Ann. If you, if if the road we live on, which goes through the neighborhood, is considered an artery, somebody just tore down a house across the street and is building $2-3 million houses on a 1 acre lot. It's just, that's what's gonna be bad about this plan. I mean, because builders and developers will take advantage of the removal of single family designation to build things that do not come anywhere near meeting the goal that we have of providing affordable housing. I understand the issue. I work now with the Levine Foundation. I mean, we give tons of money away for housing and shelter, and we've got a problem in the city we need to solve. But I don't think that, and there's some probably great things in this plan. I don't mean to demean the work that you've done, but there are parts of it that we just don't understand. And one hearing in 2 months before a vote, that's not really well advertised is not the way to do business, I don't think.
So a couple of things we can start to unpack that, if that's okay with you, Michael and Ann.
Yeah.
One, I'll talk a little bit about the engagement because the document came out in October, but the process started early 2018-19, talking to residents, and to date, there's been some really robust engagement before COVID and during COVID as best as we could. And that's where the elements of the plan derive. Tarwater did not single-handedly develop this plan at all. He's the director, and I won't get into his integrity and that kind of thing. I think that's a personal discussion. I won't address that, but what I will say is that the process has been very open and on a volunteer basis. At any point, anyone could have participated. And if you visit our website, cltfuture2040.com, and go to resources, that and just take your time and look at kind of the engagement summary. If you want to know who, what, and where what kind of engagement have been done. And now that I'll say that part. In terms of the single family discussion, this plan does not remove single family homes or say in any way that a single family home goes away. It does not eliminate the allowance of single family residential in this community. That's simply not true. Kathy, if you could post that part of the plan too. However, what it does do is say that, because today, currently, duplexes which are 2 units attached, are allowed on corner lots now. And the predominant location of those are within neighborhoods like Dilworth, Myers Park. And that's where most of that type of housing is today. I can show you a map if you want to see it, but that's where most of that housing is today. What we're simply saying is that, and another thing, the plan does not override, supersede, or alleviate restrictive covenants or any kind of other controls or HOAs or codes or restrictive covenants or anything like that. So that's not what this plan does. It's a policy document and it doesn't change anything regulatory. So that I did want to put out there. What it does do is say it allows or removes the barriers for creating additional duplexes, quads, or triplexes in appropriate locations with development standards. So there are building form and character regulations that will be within the UDO that say exactly how and if these structures happen, what they should look like, how they fit with the existing building character in the neighborhood, and where they should go. So it's not just a carte blanche, build whatever you want, however you want it to happen. That's not what the plan says at all. And the plan doesn't change any regulatory. Single family homes can still be built within the city. That's still going to be allowed. And the plan doesn't change that, nor will the ordinance. It still will allow single family homes. And I'll just say that and stop if you have any other questions about that particular subject.
I do have a follow-up. So the plan spoke to up to quadruplexes in certain circumstances being built on major
Arterials. So yeah,
arterials.
yeah.
Arterial. What are
I
arterials?
give an example. So the Department of Transportation, Charlotte Department of Transportation, and North Carolina Department of Transportation have street classifications. Based on a lot of those street classifications, there are standards for types of widths like highways, freeways, to major boulevards, to thoroughfares, to arterials, and to local streets. An arterial could be considered like a Wendover potentially, like that's a big road, but another one would be like a park road or something like that. Those really busy roads is not local streets, which would be considered your interior streets to a neighborhood. That's what that's kind of the loose definition of what an arterial is. It's a busier road with more traffic, and expected to have more capacity. Does that help, Michael?
Yeah, that does help.
We might be able to find a link to a map to give you an idea. I think Kathy just answered this question for some of our South Park neighbors about the different types of roads and what an arterial might be. Kathy put that in the chat box so you can take a quicker look at it. She did, and what that might be. But I'll open it up for others, and you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Thank you. Regarding restrictive covenants, isn't there some litigation going on in Eastover right now that has to do with restrictive?
I heard about that. That's totally separate. That has nothing to do with the plan. Because the plan does not even propose or even speak. It talks about what we won't do, but it doesn't propose superseding or anything because it's a policy document. It cannot. And legally, we can't do that without getting some kind of authority from either the neighborhoods or the state legislature. And that's not what we're seeking to do with this plan document, is to alleviate, eliminate, or override any restrictive covenants, codes, or restrictions that a homeowners association might have. So I know kind of just enough about it, but that's not related to the comp plan. That was already in place.
So don't we have restrictive covenants over in Myers Park?
I think you do. That their different neighborhoods have different regulations, and I think you do. And I'm not sure, and it depends because it could be parcel by parcel, like house by house. It could be neighborhood wide. That's a private legal agreement between a property owner and whoever the deed holder is, like if you're within a neighborhood. That's not anything that the city enforces or gets involved with. So this plan doesn't do anything with that.
One final question, and at least
it doesn't have to be final. We'll come back to you.
Other people to have a chance too, but so these policies in the plan, like the one I referenced, 2.1, 2.2, those are, you said those don't change any ordinances, they don't change any existing restrictions, they don't change any zoning rules, right? Then what's the purpose of the policy? Because they speak to zoning.
Mhm.
They're about zoning. So does that mean at some future time that the council would pull those out and make those regulation?
So they will relate, but the plan itself does not. And I'll be honest with you, Michael, we are having these conversations and thinking, really thinking about um, um, how to be clear about that connection through this process and through that separate process. And then, excuse me, and how do we make sure that there are, I won't say protections, but to be mindful of, be intentional about being mindful about protecting character of the neighborhoods, because that's what we're hearing. I wouldn't say that people, to your point, are opposed to duplexes and quads, and I can show you pictures of in Myers Park, Dilworth, and Plaza Midwood. They have them everywhere.
Yeah,
But
I've seen them.
it's not about, I
Yeah.
think what folks are concerned about is if a developer buys property, building a whole lot of maybe quads on that particular land or something like that. The regulations won't allow that. If there is a footprint for a single family house, that is the footprint that anything that replaces it will have to go in. But those
Okay.
regulations will not be in the plan. So you won't see a house and a big, tall, a new tall apartment building. That's not what the plan is suggesting at all.
Okay, well, that, I think if you guys
We just
have
have to do a
heard
better
that,
job articulating that.
I think that would be helpful. And
Yeah.
before I stop, I just think that was a very thorough plan. I mean, the research behind it, et cetera, you guys, it was awesome work. There are just parts of it that scare us a little bit in terms of property value and
Rightfully so.
you know, the character and stuff like that.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so. We'll come back to you and Ann if you don't mind. Give someone a little bit more airtime. Miss Judy's been patiently waiting and nodding. You want to jump in? And then we'll get to you. We'll get to you, Maude.
I agree with a lot of what Michael and Ann have been saying. So the plan is commendable. I mean, it's just so comprehensive, and that's part of the issue. I mean, I don't think I live under a rock, but I only heard of this plan a couple of weeks ago, like Ann said, just a couple of weeks ago. And since then, I've been talking to a lot of people, and nobody who I've spoken to is aware of this plan. So I have no doubt you've done outreach. But since this plan affects every single citizen of this community, it appears to me that there just hasn't been enough publicity about it. There hasn't been enough outreach. I don't know how you're making people aware that this exists. So that is a concern. It's a real concern. There's so much to this plan, so much. I've tried to go through all 300 and something pages of it. And I think I've skimmed all of them, but I haven't had time to focus on each and every section. Interestingly, one of the sections that did completely resonate with me is this 2.1, this policy 2.1. I'm in the Freedom Park neighborhood, and what's happening in my neighborhood is that houses are being torn down, and really expensive houses are going up, or houses are being crammed into smaller lots. I have absolutely no doubt that my neighbors, when they sell, they will sell to a developer who could care less about our neighborhood, could care less about the people who've lived in this neighborhood, who care about the the fabric of the neighborhood and the quiet of the neighborhood. And what they want to do is they want to maximize profits. And I did a little bit of research today. The duplexes that I see, and I'm in District 5, the duplexes are no less expensive than the single family homes. I mean, they're just not, it has nothing to do with affordability. So I'm concerned about that policy. And you're right, I don't think any of us, or like Michael or Ann, I think they understand that single family housing isn't being eliminated. But what it does mean is that there is no sanctity to single family lots anymore. I mean, if there's a single family lot, somebody could sell to a developer who'll put 2 or 3 units on there for the same price that they, could have sell for a single family. That's a big concern. We bought in our neighborhood based on its character, which a lot of people do. They buy based on the character and the zoning at the time. You can call these things policies that then have to go through some other regulatory channel to be, put into the uniform, the UDO. But once you call something a policy, it's not a suggestion. It is where the direction the city is going. And I'm concerned about the due process that I haven't seen in getting the input from everybody affected, which is every resident of the city. When you have a zoning change, letters get sent out, there are signs all around, you have the opportunity to review and be heard. There's a lot of notice that goes out. With something like this 2.1, there has hardly been a peep out as far as I'm concerned. So there's a couple of issues here. 2.1 is one thing in particular, but the fact that a lot of people aren't aware of this is a big issue.
Thank you for sharing that, Judy. I want to point you guys to policy, and I thank you for sharing the perspective about the tear downs and the lack of consideration for existing character. There is policy in here that talks about creating a community character overlay that will protect neighborhoods. See, that's what you're not hearing about. I think we're hearing a lot about 2.1, but there's policy in goal number 9 that talks about the community character overlay that will protect neighborhoods. So that's short of a historic district. But then, because a lot of people don't want a historic designation, there's a lot of pros and cons to that. But how will we intentionally protect those neighborhoods, the character of those neighborhoods? So the plan talks about introducing a community character overlay in which the zoning ordinance will implement to prevent those, the whole McMansion thing where you have a small house and then you have this really big thing that comes in. So that's in the plan. In goal number 9, if you just take a quick skim at it, there is an executive summary to the document too. If you don't want to read all the pages, but I think, and then that way you have an idea of what you need to kind of hone in on before you go to the actual document. Are you guys reading or looking at the e-plan, the electronic version, where you can take one section at a time and not look through the PDF? That's an easier way to navigate it as well. But I just wanted to highlight that there are sections of the plan that talk about retaining neighborhood character and form, and that the ordinance will actually implement. The idea is that there's been a lot of questions about can we delay it? Can we combine it with the UDO? And what do we learn from other cities? There's a lot of comprehensive plans that we can point to. Some have been successful and some haven't. The ones that have not have tried to do it all at once. And Austin is an example of that, where they tried to combine their land use and the zoning and everything all into one document. And for 2 reasons. One, it wasn't an incremental approach to having those conversations. All right, let's get the policy in place. Let's talk about the mapping. Then let's talk about the regulatory tool. Let's talk about the mapping. And that way people can go along with the process. So that's kind of what we learned about that. And also the consultant team that we're working with has actually done this in comparable cities of this size: Portland, Denver, I think San Antonio, and a couple of other cities. So they have some examples of what to do, what not to do, what works and what won't work. So that's from the policy perspective, but I wanted to just share those few nuggets. And if we could give Armand a little bit of airtime, we'll circle back to you, Miss Judy, and Michael, if you don't mind. Thank you. Hey, Armand. Hello?
On to me?
Yeah. Is your name Ahmad?
Oh, no, my name is Amar.
Lamar.
No, Amar.
Amar. Okay.
Amar,
I misspelled it.
No, it's okay. AMAR Johnson.
AMAR. Thank you.
Correct.
My
Yeah.
bad. I wasn't talking to you.
And that's okay. So I'm looking over the plan right now, your goals. I like them. I mean, I like them for what I see, for what I read so far. It is a lot of information to process, digest, and to understand. The biggest thing for me is this: how's it going to be applied and regulated?
Mhm.
I've had several of these meetings about affordable housing. In Seversville, we're going through a lot of redevelopment right now.
Mhm.
Come to this 5 Points area, I mean, everything's selling for $500,000 or more. I hear what they were saying about the duplexes. I felt the same way at first. That was my fear. I didn't like all the duplexes, and I was like, oh, it's going to mess with the integrity of our neighborhood, the character. And to what you said, rebuttal to what they said earlier, you look around, actually, there's already a lot of duplexes in place. Here in the Stevensville community, and then same thing in Westwood Heights, same thing in Biddleville, Smallwood. There are already a lot of duplexes in place. A lot of them are ranches, so you don't notice at first. They're built very well. They look nice. They're the craftsman style homes. And what we're seeing now in Seversville are the tall, boxy structures. I call them tall and skinnies. At first, I have an engineering background, so I embrace change. It's about how you change the pace at which you do it. So at first, I was a little apprehensive, but once they built them, I took a look. I talked to some of the developers. They grew on me. I like them. They look nice. I live in a single family home. I like my single family home. I tried to buy other properties in my community to own them myself. That way I could control the development, right? To some degree. That's really the biggest thing you can do, because any developer, they have that right to put a product there. Of course, as a community, they need to, it would be nice to engage the community. They're going to do something that's non-conforming to the current zoning. No, that part I won't really talk about too much. I mean, because that's pretty much up to the developer. It's within their right. They have the money, they buy it. As long as they're building within the city policies, laws, and things like that, I have no problem with anybody doing it, because it's going to add value to the neighborhood. And I understand people have to have somewhere to live. I would rather see a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex versus seeing an apartment complex. Now, when it comes to affordable housing, this is what I got in city council about, is how they regulate it. I'm tired of city council approving for affordable housing to always be built in what they call an opportunity zone, somewhere that was economically depressed or low income traditionally. Seversville was that area 6 years ago. It's not that area now. You come here now, you are staying next to CEOs. You're staying next to doctors, staying next to lawyers, you're staying next to engineers, people on their own business, entrepreneurs. And we do have a project coming here. You might have heard about it. It's the Stewart Creek Greenway project, where it's going to be a non-vehicular property.
Yep.
That's something we totally don't want. It was no research was done to validate building that property. The bottom line is they got opportunity zoning money to build it here, and they don't give a damn about whether that project succeeds or not, because they're not worried about losing any money, because it's not their money.
Right.
And it's a terrible project, and we're going to continue to fight that project, probably take it to court. But it's projects like that I don't like, and I don't want to see that in anyone else's community, where it's Myers Park, Ballantyne, Dilworth, because there needs to be some market data analysis to substantiate a project of this nature that doesn't conform to the current policy. Now, this project doesn't even conform.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't conform in any
Right.
kind of way, not far as the parking spaces allowed that are mandated by the city, not the building height, not anything. So it's a terrible product. The only thing that I ask is that when the city is considering building affordable housing, I want them to put it everywhere. I want to see affordable housing in Myers Park. I want to see affordable housing in Dilworth. I want to see it in Ballantyne. I want to see it spread all over the city of Charlotte. Now, the reason why is this: the city of Charlotte did a study about upward mobility back in 2017, and what that study showed was that Charlotte came in 50th out of 50 in the 50 largest cities in the United States. What that means is that a person born into a low-income economic situation is more likely to stay into the low-income economic situation. And one of the reasons why is it was based on 5 principles, and one that I've been going to a lot of meetings lately, and one that's really stuck out to me is the one about social mobility, social equity.
Mhm.
That's part of it. So social equity is in all genres, all facets part of our life. It's in the economy, it's in the justice system, it's in the police brutality, it's in the economy, it's in education, it's in healthcare. There's a lot of disparities amongst race, right? And essentially the root cause of this is because there's not enough diversity where one ethnic group, one race, gender, age group, or gender, whatever, is having a chance to mingle, to interact with the other group. So these different groups need to interact so they can learn from one another, so they can be used to each other. That way, when you see someone who doesn't look like you walking down your street, you're not freaking out, you're not scared. And that way, you also can have some type of a compassion moment where you maybe can learn from them and they can actually learn from you. Part of having social equity is social mobility. And that was the part that really drives me crazy about this project. Social mobility is the fact that we actually have a place, a vehicle to interact, like a greenway leading to a library. Do we have these common areas where we can have cultural arts, have these conversations where people can talk, play together? That way, when you have an issue arise, something more of a more serious nature, when law enforcement got to get involved, they have tolerance. They have tolerance for someone that doesn't look like them. And that way, you don't end up with life loss. You don't end up with riots. You don't end up with unnecessary protests and unrest in your city. So if we're being proactive right now, right, designing communities, what we're doing, we design communities right now where people can interact on different economic levels. We have affordable housing in Seversville. I interact with. I'm not as exactly a person that's probably, I don't know. I mean, I'm doing pretty good in life, so I interact with everybody. Especially being a president, and everybody I know some people who are definitely on affordable housing. And it's okay. I talk to them every day. I see them, and I think our community is better for it, say today than it was 6 years ago when I first moved here. We don't have nearly the amount of crime. We don't have nearly the sanitation issues we used to have. It's a lot that goes into it. There are so many benefits that are intangible that people don't even realize through diversity. And it's not just enough to have diversity. You have to have inclusion, you have to have access, and you have to have equity. You need those 4 to really make this thing work. And the key to all those is social mobility, building that social equity. Social equity is priceless. It basically it's like networking. You see somebody, you meet somebody on LinkedIn, you meet them at some kind of symposium or some workshop for work, whatever. You get that business card, the email, you stay in contact, and sometimes it don't amount to nothing, and sometimes it amounts to a whole lot. So that's the way these communities got to be. And so my biggest thing is right now is how we really administer, regulate the affordable housing, because we do need it, but we don't need it all in one place. We need for affordable housing to spread out. We need for it to spread out, and that's what I want to see. And we don't have all duplexes in one spot. I mean, we do have some, but most of our homes here are single family homes. And coming from a real estate appraisal standpoint for its value, a heterogeneity or a hetero, I'm gonna say a heterogeneous community, when it's diverse, is worth more than a homogeneity or a homogeneous type of community. So if everybody in my neighborhood was all one race, and we all had single family house look alike, our values would not be as high in Stevenson. But when we had that diversity of homeowners, that diversity of architectural look, your values, your character neighborhood was actually a lot higher. And you can talk to any real estate appraisal about that. They'll tell you that. So having that diversity neighborhood is not all bad from an architectural standpoint. And it adds character. I think it's a great idea. But I just want to make sure it's administered properly. That's all. That's my biggest concern. I see these plans roll out from the city all the time, and it seems like they go to the same neighborhoods on the west side all the time for the housing. They need to stop that. They need to put something like, I'm just gonna be honest. And I've told everybody this. I said it to the mayor. I said it around city council. So I enjoy coming to these meetings to say that.
Thank you for sharing that, Amar. A couple of things you hit on, and I'll touch on a few and open it back up. The thing about that rezoning project, and a lot of what you're seeing in Seversville, they were rezonings, like one by one. And that has been a pattern for a lot of our in-town neighborhoods, or neighborhoods who don't have an updated vision for what they should be. And so some parts of our community get a plan, and some are 5 years old, 10 years old, and then some parts are 20 years old. There's just not enough capacity to get to the places that we need to update and address the evolution of our community. So this plan is primarily a land use plan that will update and provide guidance on future development. And that's through the place type elements. And it thinks more comprehensively about how residential interacts with schools and libraries and those types of things. Because right now, how a lot of our communities design, it may take you 20, 30 minutes just to get to a park. And then another neighborhood, it may take you 5 minutes. And there's a certain amount of inequity in being able to get to essential goods and services. For some people, it takes 4 buses to get to work. Like, that's just too much for some people. And so the plan talks about safe and equitable mobility, and how do we be more strategic about our transportation improvements. And it's not light rail that's going to solve that at all. It's sidewalks, bike lanes, greenways, trails, all of that to help create a more complete community and provide that throughout Charlotte. And there's some places that just don't see it. And so the plan talks about a lot of that in that rezoning process, that piecemeal approach to developing. That works for some, and for a lot of people who don't have the time or a seat at the table, it goes right over their head, because that's just how the process has been for years. And so if there's a new development ordinance like the UDO, or the Unified Development Ordinance, with zoning districts that clearly link to the vision that we want to see, then a lot of that transparency is there. There's more predictability as to what is going to happen next to me, and less of that, oh, let me wait to see what rezoning is coming through, and I have 30 days to talk to the developer, or 1 meeting to talk to him. And that depends on the neighborhood. There's no consistency in that either. And so a lot of that type of information is in the plan. There are some programs that talk about economic resiliency and diversity of opportunity and jobs and arts and culture. It's that overarching thing I think all of us on this call can agree that are great for Charlotte, is particularly as we move forward. So some of that's in there, and I hope that you all spend some time reading through those elements. Let me send this to. And I know Michael has some more comments, and Judy as well. Michael and Miss Ann had some more comments.
I mean, I think all of that is wonderful and ideal, at a very high level. But on a very practical level, I just want to try to understand this, because I don't have a background in this. But how do you have $2 million homes and then put affordable housing right next door? At the end of the day, we would love to think that everybody could get along, but at the end of the day, what you would have is, and I'm just speaking forthrightly here, and practically speaking, you would have people leaving at that point. And so that area would end up turning out to be something that you might not want it to be, because you don't legislate people's getting along and trying to find each other. Diversity should be something that shouldn't be legislated. It should be an affair of the heart where people are allowed to find each other on their own terms. And so when it comes to affordable housing, so you've got and I just want to understand this. So you've got a $2 million home and you build an apartment complex where people are paying $250 a month for rent, or $300 a month. And this is where, this is my understanding. How does that work really on a practical level?
So Ms. Ann, that's not what's in the plan at all. And that's not what we're suggesting. And let's be honest about how development happens. A lot what drives cost of homes in most properties is land value. It makes no sense to buy a piece of land in Myers Park and put a triplex on it. Economically, developers probably and likely won't do that. And nor are we saying that there's nowhere in this plan that says that unit has to be affordable. That's not in here. It doesn't dictate that. The affordable housing component, that happens on a whole nother process. And affordability, depending on where you are, that could mean different things. What's affordable in Seversville is different than what might be affordable, considered affordable in Myers Park. I think the definition is getting diluted or mixed with the incentives or federal standards around funding to support certain types of things. There's nothing in this plan that says we will be allowing apartments where people are paying X amount. We can't do that here. That's not what the plan says. You won't find it. And that's simply not the case at all. And nor does it talk about forcing. I think, and if Amar would allow me to clarify, I don't think he was saying that the plan should legislate it or force it. I think he was expressing the benefits of it. And that I think we all can agree of the benefits of it, but the plan is not talking about forcing anyone to do anything like that. Am I clear? Did I say it right, Amar? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes, you said it right. But this is the thing about legislating. We're already legislated where to live by zoning. Zoning is a policing power. And that's the only reason Myers Park is where it is, or Ballantyne's where it is, or any other community. Because zoning said that this will be residential, and then they obviously the way they zoned it with the type of development that can go there dictates the price. So we're already segregated by law. And it's unfortunate, which is obviously a personal choice, that if someone moves in your community with affordable housing, you will move out, then, you know, obviously the city of Charlotte, myself, and nobody else is responsible for that. That's a personal decision. But that's unfortunate because it's an opportunity for you to make a new friend. You may find it inconvenient that affordable housing may move in your neighborhood, but how big of an inconvenience if it was somebody like in Tent City, right? If they were homeless, or if the shoe was on the foot. You know, it's like we look at this stuff sometimes, we think that it's bad or it's inconveniencing. It could be worse or it could be different. You know, the fact someone lives in your neighborhood, you don't have to talk to every neighbor. I mean, I don't talk to all my neighbors now. I just don't, because, like, you know, it's not like I feel indifferent about them or they feel one way about me. Just that maybe I don't come across them as much as I would like to or need to, or we don't have anything in common. That's all. But no, if you know, like I said, change is hard to embrace, and it's not where you live; it's how you live. That's the biggest thing that you know, I kind of express to my neighbors. Yeah, I live in a single family home, and so some other neighbors. When they built duplex in our community, we didn't exile them or annex them. It was nothing like that. You know, everybody lives a certain way, right? And we got to learn how to get along. That's the biggest thing I think that we really seen explode the last 4 years. You know, it's like people not getting along. People got to stop that. We have to get along, and it all starts with us. You know, the city of Charlotte not changing our community. We change our community, the individual. You know, Searsville is a wonderful place to live. Real quiet, nobody bothers anybody. People go to the local brewery down the street. We got Blue Blaze Brewery, and you can go by any time of the day or week, and you can see diversity, social interaction occurring. That's a beautiful thing, and that's something for everybody. That's all. You know, I just want to be spread out. You know, spread this housing thing out, make it look more realistic. And, you know, we do need libraries, we do need parks, you know, we need those amenities. That's what we need in our community. We need those amenities, and everybody needs it. Myers Park needs it, Valentine needs it. You know, we need shopping, we need grocery stores.
And I think all of that is wonderful. I mean, everything you said is very important. I'm just looking at the practical aspects of the way neighborhoods are thought through, and, you know, the people that want to live there. And so from what I understand from this plan, and maybe I've read it completely wrong, is that all restrictions are going away.
Single family.
Setbacks, I mean, there are no,
that's not true, Miss Ann, not at all. This plan does not even.
I mean, as far as setbacks.
No, ma'am.
Or any of that.
No, ma'am. That's not true at all. That's not true.
What I read was, even if it was single family and somebody builds a multifamily, that the setbacks and so forth would, and
no,
what is it?
That's not.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm like, that's not it.
Setbacks and impervious surface and all that would still have to be adhered to or honored. That's what I read. So I think she maybe been misinformed on that point there.
Yeah, that's it, right. Kathy has her hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? I just wanted to go back, Alicia, to something when you were addressing some of Ann's comments, and you had made a comment, if I understood you correctly, that you didn't really foresee developers going into Myers Park and building duplexes and triplexes and quadruplexes. In fact, they are already doing that. We have plenty of land within Myers Park that is already zoned for such type development. Plenty of it. Well, I would challenge other neighborhoods to be as diverse as Myers Park actually is in housing types. And they are chomping at the bit to continue doing this. So they will pay $1 million plus for a lot. And then when they can turn around and build a duplex, a triplex, or a quadruplex, they'll do it. They've told me they're going to do it. They're waiting, and it's happening now on areas that are already zoned for that. And so what's going to happen is you're going to drive up the land costs even more, because these developers are going to pay more than someone that's moving into town or someone that's upsizing or even downsizing. These land values are going to go up even more. You're absolutely right. There's not going to be affordable housing in Myers Park. You can't do it. The math doesn't work. It doesn't work. You're just going to have further and further development until, and these developers are coming in from all over. And a lot of them are not vested in our community. They are here for the dollar. And they're going to take the dollar and they're going to go. And they're already here. They are already in some of our most vulnerable neighborhoods, buying up dozens of properties. I work on the Board of Equalization Review, and I hear people's appeals when they come to appeal their property values. And even if these people own their properties outright, the property taxes alone with the escalation in the land values is causing them to have to move even further out. The gentrification that's already happening is going to happen at even a quicker, more rapid pace when you remove the obstacle of single-family zoning. In this plan, I don't see anything that really helps prevent that in those most vulnerable communities. I would say in the Myers Parks and the Eastovers, we've got the fact that our land value is going to forbid a lot of that to ever happen because it doesn't make sense. And then earlier you were talking about a policy where we're going to be creating a community layover, a character overlay. Well, I have concerns. Who's going to do that? Whose opinions are going to go into that? Who's going to decide what my community overlay should be? Who's going to have the final say? And then, more importantly, just take a huge step back in regards to this whole thing. It is quite obvious that the community, even from this little discussion, and I entered the discussion late, it is quite obvious the community is quite confused and quite uninformed about this plan and what's going on. I've found the discussions, again, in my little sit-in here so far with you, I think you're doing a fabulous job of answering questions and providing more insight. Unfortunately, this is one little discussion with how many people are online here? How many? 610? I don't know. I can't see.
Yes.
We have a community of 850,000 plus people. I bet I could walk over into Greer Heights. I could walk into Cherry. I could walk into Foxcroft. I could walk into Sedgefield and go door to door and ask how many people, what they knew about the 2040 plan and how they thought it was going to affect them, how it might benefit them, and how it might not benefit them. And it would be overwhelmingly blank stares. People would have no idea what I was talking about. Something as critical as this. And I've read the plan many times, and I've done the virtual open house, which was nothing but a bunch of posters. I asked questions on it. I still haven't gotten my answers from the questions that I asked on it. I'm awaiting those. I mean, I've done my homework. This plan is very generalized. It's huge. It's monumental. It is going to change this city. And there's good in it. I'm not knocking everything. I mean, there's good in this. But it almost seems like some of the goals are actually counterintuitive to some of the other goals. You want to increase density. Okay, you want to increase density, but you want more green space. You want more tree canopy. Nowhere in here do I see how you're going to really get that achieved. But again, back big picture, I think this needs to be delayed. It was presented in a parking lot off of Independence Boulevard on Halloween, the last day of early voting during one of the most contentious presidential elections ever, during a pandemic when people are trying to stay employed, educate their children, and stay healthy. And then we went right into the holidays. And again, everyone's still trying to figure out how to do the holidays during a pandemic. No one was paying attention to the 2040 plan. They didn't even know it existed. And only when a few people started raising some flags and started getting some attention did some other people start tuning in. And yes, now you've got some misinformation going out too. I think at the very least that the vote that takes place in April needs to be delayed, and that now that we seem to be coming out of this pandemic a little bit, and we can have in-person meetings, and there is some capacity to have these in-person meetings down at the government center and so forth, and the community can come, that's what needs to happen, and not rushing this through with this generalized thing of this is what's going to happen, and we're going to fill in the blanks later. I think that's dangerous. And I think that some of the communities that you think are going to be helped by eliminating single-family zoning are going to be just scavenged up, and those people are going to be displaced. I think something more like the Housing Impact Fund that was established, and they're not the only one, there's a few of them. They raised $58 million, and they are doing wonderful things about reoccurring affordable housing. And like Omar said, they're in areas where it already exists. Yes, but they are going to be providing them a better quality of housing, these type of funds. And that's where working with them and figuring out what makes it so that these private people can come in and do this and provide a service that we desperately need. Because it's quite clear that city council can't do that. Has anybody heard of Brooklyn Village? Brooklyn Village, it's been 5 years, nothing's happened. It was downtown. That was supposed to provide affordable housing, which was actually less than 10% of the units were going to be affordable housing. And it was presented as this big plan. And they did say it was going to take 10 years. So we got 5 more to go before we get anything out of that. So I think we need to step back, need to delay it, and City Council, the Planning Commission, everyone needs to understand we were under the most unique circumstances when this plan came out, and it's not fair to the community to try to push this through. And we're going to say, we don't understand, and we're uncomfortable, and we want to understand. So that's what I have to say.
Tarwater has joined us. We're past time. And the purpose of tonight was not a public meeting or for it to be a big meeting. It's people were given the opportunities to sign up for a small conversation. So we've had much larger turnout at the meeting where it was tended. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to have a more beginning to start to have dialogue around facts that are in the plan. And we can continue to do that. We have more slots available you can sign up for, or shoot me an email, either one of us on the call to set something up, to discover something else and want to have future conversation. I'll turn it over to Ty to have some, to give us some closing remarks, if you don't mind, Ty. Whoa.
Alicia, can I say one thing before you do that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the one thing I want to say to everybody is I sense the frustration, and to help ease your mind, because I felt the same way, like when I first read the stuff. What we got to look at is this: what is the city of Charlotte's intended use? That's the important thing. What are they looking to accomplish? And it may look like the city of Charlotte, not that I'm saying it's good or bad. It may look like they're trying to make it be a bunch of apartments within the city limits of Charlotte. Eventually they want to get rid of single family housing. I mean, like if you look at it, right? I mean, I don't think trying to do that, but I've traveled, I travel a lot for work, and I see a lot of cities in the north. And I noticed, I've been in Charlotte about 15 years now. A lot of people from the north, I'm just from North Carolina, but a lot of people from the north are moving to the south. And I think they like this high density, this high populated area. And, they just like a lot of density. So, I don't know. Nobody said that to me. I'm just going on my own whim.
You making it up. You making it up.
I might be making it up.
Because here's what I will say, Omar, it's in appropriate locations. I think that's what people are missing, is that growth will happen, but in appropriate location. it doesn't, and it goes where the infrastructure can support it. And so I turn it over to Ty to go and close us out.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, I've been on for about 20 minutes or so. So thank you very much for joining. This is democracy, obviously. And that's why we built a 6-month process into the plan after it was released, so people can really provide feedback. And so we definitely appreciate the opportunity for you to join us tonight. I'm actually just coming from another meeting, talking about the plan and other things that the city is doing. So we're all trying to engage and meet with people face to face, virtually where we can. This morning, I think we were able to huddle with the Myers Park Neighborhood Association and had a few things that the president and the members shared with us. So this is good. We're planning to have a town hall on March 16. And so the invitation for that will go out again, and we're going to give people options as to when they're available to attend the meetings. So, well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your dinner time tonight to join us. And I'm glad that I was able to at least listen in for the last 20 minutes or so. So I appreciate that opportunity. We would definitely be doing more of this. So if you would communicate to us some of what you've expressed tonight by mail, by email, that would be very appreciated. And eventually we will process everything together. We will be presenting this to council on Monday, March 1st, as well as the Unified Development Ordinance. So if you want to pay attention to council meeting that evening, that will also be very helpful. So once again, thank you very much for staying engaged and for staying involved. We know at the end of the day, we may not be able to meet everybody's goals, but the important thing is that we meet the city's objectives. And when I say city, not the government, but the community, and as much as we can. And so we will definitely make sure that we do that. It's a living document. The fact that it's going to happen now doesn't mean it cannot be revised or reviewed in the future. And so we'll continue to work with you to make sure that at the end of the day, it reflects where we are and where we're heading as a city. So once again, thank you very much, and we'll be in touch.